Hi, everyone. I'm Omar Villafranca. Thank you for joining us. President Biden will soon speak on the ongoing evacuation of Americans and allies from Afghanistan. He'll deliver his remarks from the White House. Now, despite criticism of the U.S. troop withdrawal, Mr. Biden has defended his decision and said chaos was inevitable. The president is no longer traveling to Delaware today. He will stay in Washington, D.C. The situation at the airport in Kabul remains tumultuous after the Taliban takeover. Some people were even seen handing their children to U.S. troops guarding the perimeter. CBS News foreign correspondent Roxana Saberi is in Qatar tracking the evacuation.
A senior U.S. border official tells CBS News his agency is busy screening Afghans who arrive here in Doha before they fly to military bases in the U.S. But still, many can't even make it this far. The main route out of Afghanistan remains a scene of despair. Families so worried for the future, they're handing their children to U.S. troops, while thousands push, wait, and long for a flight to freedom.
So finally, I'm getting to the airport.
Amin Mahmoudi, a former translator for the U.S. military, filmed his attempts earlier this week.
I'm still in here, so unfortunately, Taliban's keeping fire on people.
Twice he failed.
So it's 6 o'clock came in morning, so I'm just wake up. So today I have a plan to go airport.
In June, Mahmoudi told Charlie D'Agata he risked his own life to save the lives of American soldiers.
They hug me and they kiss me.
Now the Taliban are back in power, he says he's in more danger than ever.
They will kill me and they will behead me.
They will behead you.
Of course.
Are you afraid of being left behind?
So I have already left behind.
Since Saturday, U.S. forces have evacuated around 9,000 people from Kabul airport, mostly U.S. citizens and Afghans who once worked for the U.S. We joined hundreds of them on a U.S. military transport plane on Wednesday night. But on the ground, another journey begins. This video on a U.S. airbase shows conditions as people wait to be processed. One man tells us around 2,000 Afghans and U.S. citizens are here, crowded and hot. Many people wait hours for food, he says, but they're still grateful for all the U.S. is giving them. And we heard back from Mahmoudi, the former translator. He told us he didn't make it onto a flight today. He said this time he was turned back not by the Taliban, but by U.S. troops. Omar?
Roxana Saberi, thank you very much. A reminder, we are expecting the president at any moment. We will go to a CBS News special report as soon as the president begins his comments. Now, for more on this, I want to bring in Heidi Peltier. She's the director of the 20 Years of War Project at Boston University. Heidi, thank you for joining us. First, break down for us how much this war has cost, both in human lives, which is more important, of course, and monetary costs.
Sure. Thanks, Omar, for having me on. So this war has been incredibly expensive, something that I think most Americans don't know about the war in Afghanistan. We've spent, by the narrowest estimate, over $1 trillion in Afghanistan just on what the Department of Defense calls overseas contingency operations. So that's what they consider their war budget. But if you add together that war budget plus increases to the Pentagon's base budget, plus the cost of veterans care and benefits, plus the increased cost of Homeland Security, plus the cost of interest on the debt to pay for the war, all of this, we've spent more than $2.5 trillion just on Afghanistan so far. And a lot of the spending will occur in the future as we continue to care for veterans and we continue to pay interest on the debt incurred for the war.
Now, I've covered military installations here stateside. Not everybody on post, obviously, is wearing a uniform. There's a lot of contractors that are also involved in situations like this. You have information on contractors. What was their role, and how much did they cost? How much did they make?
Well, the role of contractors is, often hidden from public view. So the U.S. presence is much bigger than most Americans realize. In fact, there are many more contractors than troops in Afghanistan. And one of the things in the post 9/11 wars in Afghanistan and elsewhere is that contractors have taken on an increased number of duties that used to be done by troops. And so now we have nearly twice as many contractors in Afghanistan as troops. And in fact, more contractors have been killed than U.S. troops in Afghanistan. And they're doing everything from, providing dining services and IT support and security services, transportation, fuel convoys, So they're doing all kinds of things to either support or replace the work done by the troops.
When you're talking trillions of dollars, kind of put this in perspective, is this amount typical for war spending? And how does this compare to previous conflicts we've had?
This is the post 9/11 wars, including Iraq and Syria and Afghanistan. We've spent more on these wars than all other wars except for World War II. And casualties are higher than all other wars except for World War II. So these have been incredibly expensive, both in terms of human lives and in terms of the budgetary costs.
Can we expect the cost to go up now based on the chaotic scenes that we're seeing? And even though we have pulled out the majority of troops, we're still keeping troops there. There are still military aircraft going and coming. You know, the U.S. military is not a benevolent society. That costs money. Is this still costing money?
It will continue to cost money well into the future. So there are the immediate costs of evacuation, the immediate cost of providing security and additional troop support for Americans and, in some cases, Afghan citizens leaving the country. And then there are all the future costs. So all of the veterans that have served in Afghanistan who will get health care benefits, who have been disabled and will get disability benefits. These run into the trillions of dollars as well in the future. And then these wars have been funded exclusively through debt. And so we're paying interest. We have been paying interest on the debt incurred for the war, and that will continue well into the future. We've already, for the post 9/11 wars together, we've already incurred $1 trillion of interest, and that'll add up to $2 trillion by 2030. So we will have spent as much on interest as the war by 2030. And these are going to continue to climb.
And kind of give me some perspective here, Heidi. When everybody who the U.S. is going to get out, American citizens, Afghanis who have helped and allies, once we get everybody out that we're going to get out, are we still going to be paying money in any way, shape, or form for things that have been left behind there?
Well, there will be additional reconstruction costs, and those are not included in the $2.5 trillion or so that the estimate I gave earlier. So there will be costs for reconstruction. There will be continuing humanitarian aid costs, and then the additional costs for contractors who will remain in the country long after the troops have left. Some of the contractors are leaving alongside the troops, but some will remain.
So the people may leave, but it sounds like money, American money, will still be going there.
That's right, for years to come.
Heidi, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me.